All right, we're coming to you live. Not really, but we're here at the Open Source Studios. I'm here with Jeremy. I am Barton George with the All Things Open team, and we've got a bunch of things that we're going to talk about today. Some of the highlights are vulnerability management, open source communities, and we'll explain open source versus FLOSS in a second, and user safety. So with that, why don't we start off with open source versus FLOSS? Many people may not know FLOSS.
Sure.
What is that and what's the difference?
So it sounds like something you'd use between your teeth.
Yes, and it is, but this is a different one.
Right. So the age-old debate between is it open source software, is it free software? You've got the FSF on one side and the OSI on the other. Seems like sort of
schism. Is it a tension? Is
They're not really at odds with one another necessarily, but the two terms tend to get used interchangeably unless you find yourself in one of those very specific camps. People who want to refer to the blanket of the copyleft sort of community in the free software realm and the more permissively licensed software in the open source thought sphere, combine the two and refer to free and open source software, but the term free often also gets misunderstood. In English, it can have a couple of primary meanings.
That's where Richard Stallman's free as in freedom, not freedom,
right.
Free as in beer.
Exactly. And so the French term libre, or maybe Spanish,
I think they're close.
Possibly both.
Maybe Italian and
yes, is used to disambiguate free as in freedom versus gratis.
Right.
Would be the alternative.
And there's a lot of confusion. People think of it as freeware when you say free software. So vulnerability management. Why does that rock your world? Why is it important? And why are we talking about it here?
I guess when I first discovered it decades ago, it was really more from an operator, systems administrator perspective, just trying to keep software updated on my own systems. But as I got more into the development and open source community side of things, over the years, I realized that the vulnerability handling and vulnerability reporting really requires a level of attention to detail and meticulousness that really appeals to someone who's a puzzle solver like me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So if we switch now more to open source in general, and we started off with that, how did you get involved with it? And then what advice would you give to people who are looking to get involved with it?
Well, I've been in and around open source communities for several decades, going back to the early 90s at this point. But
was Debian one of the first places you?
No, I didn't really discover the Debian distribution until almost the end of the 90s. I really started out with just hand-rolled manual installation of the kernel and user space for Linux. Even pre-Linux, I was messing around with Minix before that, but then
Unix. Did you start with Unix?
Yes, I actually used quite a lot of proprietary Unix before that even. But soft landing Linux was a very early distribution that I used a bit. Moved on to Slackware, used Red Hat for a while, and then when I found Debian in the late 90s, it really appealed to me as more of a community-oriented distribution, and so I started getting involved there, and I'm now director and officer of the charity Software in the Public Interest that provides a home to Debian and a number of other community Linux distributions as well, and other popular open source software projects.
Very cool. So if I were looking to get involved today, starting from ground zero, what would be the first place you would point me towards?
I would say open source, to me at least, is really about community. And you don't want to just go barging into a community without understanding its culture and its norms. I I have always found whenever I am moving into a new community for some project, that it helps to kind of lurk for a little bit, watch the interactions between the established community members, see how they engage with each other, what sorts of tools they're using, what sorts of workflows they employ, what they prefer, what they avoid, and start slow with limited engagement and kind of feel out the relationship that you're establishing effectively with a community of other individuals.
So yeah, you're not going in with guns a-blazing. You're sort of sitting back,
Exactly.
observing before you dip your toe in and then go from there. So now we talk about transparency with open source. That's a huge part of it, one of the biggest. How do you balance that with user safety?
In terms of vulnerability management in particular, it's a challenge because in most of the open source communities that I'm involved in, we do all of our work in the open on publicly visible tooling. Anyone can see the contents of any changes that are being made to any of the software and bugs that are reported against the software and so on. But when it comes to security vulnerabilities, that kind of gets flipped on its head. You oftentimes need to be very careful about how much information you disseminate early in the lifespan of a vulnerability report. When you receive information about a suspected risk and you need to look into it, you want to make sure that you don't have too many eyes on it straight away until you've had a chance to assess the situation, come up with possible fixes, and be able to provide those fixes to your users or the people who are distributing your software before it really becomes well known to the point where it could get used by nefarious actors. So that creates a challenge because the people who are doing the software development in your community are used to working in public, and if they have to try to collaborate and coordinate writing and reviewing fixes and confirming bugs in private, they're not able to use the same tools that they normally would, and it really slows them down. It creates a lot of additional effort spent, and that's really in open source. Our biggest resource is people. It's the developers on the projects, it's the users, and you don't want to waste any more of their time than you absolutely have to. So trying to work on security issues in private is a big time sink, and really one of my biggest tasks in being a vulnerability manager is to try to assess when it's safe to work on a report in public versus when we need to continue in private, so as not to burn any more of anyone's time than we absolutely have to.
That makes a lot of sense. So is there a new tool that you're using to boost your productivity? Something you found recently, open source, proprietary, something you wrote?
I would say the most recent is I finally got around to trying out WireGuard VPN protocol. It was recommended by one of my coworkers. I travel a fair amount for conferences, like we're here at All Things Open right now, and I'm particularly concerned about the safety of my network connections when I am trying to do double duty attending a conference, but also still getting my work done remotely on highly secured systems, and so I discovered that the OpenBSD firewall that I run at my house and the Debian Linux operating system that I run on my mobile devices all natively support the WireGuard VPN protocol. So a couple of days ago, I set up a full tunnel from my portable devices to my house, and all my internet traffic while I'm traveling to ATO and to the next conference after this all basically zips over the internet to my house and then out from there, all via a secured tunnel.
That's pretty cool. And now, if you have a lot of experience in this area, what would be the one sort of tip, career advice, best practice that you would pass on to somebody either already in the industry or someone who is just getting started?
Either way, I would say put yourself out there, make friends, go to conferences like this one if you can afford to, or even local user groups, that may be something you can attend for free and have a good time with people. The more people you get to know who are doing the sorts of things that you'd like to do, the easier it'll be to find a job in it. Every single job that I've had in my 35-year so far career and counting has come through other people that I know, has not been through submitting resumes blindly to to random businesses.
And that comes back to that whole community thing, which helps in so many ways.
Yep.
And now we come to that part of the show called the Hot Fix Minute. So we're going to give you the answers. You're going to give you your answer to our answer. So there's a finite number of selections to choose from. So the first one, I think I know what you're going to say. Linux, Mac, or Windows?
Linux.
I thought so. Books, movies, or podcasts?
Books.
Pizza, salad, or tacos?
Tacos.
Wow, okay. And then we got rock, we got country, and we got hip hop.
Rock.
Star Wars, Star Trek, or stargazing?
I'll go with stargazing so as not to offend anyone.
Yes, that's a very political line to walk. Android or iPhone?
Is there a neither?
Oh, if you had a write-in candidate, what would it be?
I am currently using a Purism Librem 5 phone running the PureOS operating system, which is a Debian derivative.
Wow, pretty impressive. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, and whatever else we might think of.
I'm probably the only person in the world who has not used a single one of those.
Well,
so I have no opinion.
There you go. I have follow-up questions, but we have to move on. The last but not least, the future of AI, society will benefit, or I'd rather not say, the chatbots may be listening.
Ooh, I'd rather not say.
All right. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.